from the College by the Lake, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Local, regional, national, and international guests discussing the issues and topics affecting the way you live are on Forum, the North Idaho College Public Forum, with your host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart.
It is a very special privilege today to welcome all of our viewers in the Northwest and Canada to the beginning of the 22nd year of the North Idaho College Public Forum. Last year we were able to bring you our 1000th show, and now we have another important day in our broadcasting, and that is the beginning of the 22nd year. And it's very appropriate that to start out this year that we're going to discuss a series of international conferences on human rights. A few years ago, a group of scholars and civil rights activists from Europe and the United States got together and proposed that there be a decade, one human rights conference each year during the 1990s. The first conference took place at the University of California in Berkeley. The second conference was held in Moscow, Soviet Union, at the time the Soviet Union, and the third conference took place at Columbia University in New York City. This is the year for the fourth conference. We're happy to report that conference is coming to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to North Idaho College, and to the Coeur d'Alene Resort, October 29 through 31 of this year. That is from noon Friday until noon Sunday, the 29th through the 31st of October. This particular conference is going to be entitled Empowering Women. Each of the 10 conferences stresses a different area of human rights. And I'm very pleased to welcome to our program the co-chair of that international conference, Jeannie Givens. She has worked for over 2 years on this preparation, and she is going to be co-chairing that conference with international lecturer and author Dr. Rion Eisler. Jeannie Givens has a very distinguished background. She's a former member of the Idaho House of Representatives, serving and representing the 5 northern counties of Idaho. She is a member of the Board of Trustees at North Idaho College. She serves on several regional and national boards of directors. These are only a few of the many, many things that she has done in her life, and Jeannie has been in the past. It's a pleasure to welcome you back to the program. We thank you and congratulate you for co-chairing this conference that is going to bring so many people from many, many places to this city for 3 days.
Thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here.
And it's always a pleasure to have our regular panelist, Steve Schink, who is the Dean of College Relations and Development at North Idaho College. And I would add that Steve Schink is serving on the planning committee and has done an awful lot of work. And so all of us today will be talking in some way about our work in preparing for this conference. And Steve, on behalf of the steering committee, thank you for your efforts, and we will ask you to commence the questioning.
Thank you, Tony. Jeannie, I wonder if we could begin by asking you to give us and the audience just an overview of what this conference will be about.
The overview picture of this conference to take place in Coeur d'Alene will be one of the building blocks for the decade of human rights. And our title is Empowering Women, Achieving Human Rights in the 21st Century. Coeur d'Alene was chosen for many good reasons. Number one, the awareness level of human rights is paramount here. Plus, we had a very good steering committee to take the reins and run with this idea. We've been planning and working very hard for 2 years as a steering committee, putting together a program that we think will challenge people's minds and challenge people's creativity and give a very good broad understanding of the need to improve human rights for women throughout the world. We've put together speakers, and if you don't mind, I'd like to go through some of those speakers right now. Arvon Fraser is with the International Women's Rights Action Watch, and she is one of our keynote speakers, and she was recently appointed by President Clinton to head the United States delegation, United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. So we're very proud and honored that she will be participating in our conference. Ada Deer also was recently appointed by President Clinton to head up the Bureau of Indian Affairs within the Department of Interior. She is a former professor at the University of Wisconsin, and she was the first woman elected to the Menominee Tribal Council, and she was the tribal chairman. Christina Crawford, you may have already heard of, is a best-selling author and internationally recognized expert on violence in the family. She wrote the best-selling book, Mommy Dearest, and she is coming to us. We're pleased to have her. She will be a keynoter for the Family and Violence segment of our program. Dr. Rion Eisler has been on board for a long time, and she is the co-chair of the conference, and I will be sharing the gavel with Dr. Eisler. She is an author, lecturer, attorney, and an anthropologist. She is the author of The Chalice and the Blade, which is a wonderful book that examines partnerships between men and women, and it's a very exciting book. Ann Firth Murray is president of the Global Fund of Menlo Park, California, and they fund women's causes throughout the world. Dr. Lisa Brown comes to us from Eastern Washington University, and she is a professor of economics. So within those speakers, I think we have a very well-rounded program to present.
Jeannie, would you talk a little bit about the title of that conference, Empowering Women? What sorts of issues will be discussed under that broad topic?
With the word empowering, we unfortunately do have a situation where there are many segments of society within different countries where women do not have equal access to, number one, education, do not have equal access to earn their own money, to be independent, and we will be looking at those kinds of things, as well as they don't enjoy the same kind of protection under the courts as we do here in this country. Mm-hmm. For instance, in some countries it's perfectly legal to beat your wife in public, and they are considered more as property, as chattel, than they are partners. So we'll really be getting an eye-opening experience here at this conference through those kinds of discussions.
Thank you.
Gene, I think it'd be really important to make the point with our viewers that the conference is broken into different approaches and components, and those 6 distinguished speakers that you have listed for our viewers all are giving what we call keynote presentations, and when they speak, the entire conference will come together in a preliminary session, or I always like to call them General Assembly sessions, and so if you come, you will have access to all 6 of those. I would like for you to look at the second part. There are many other things, but there's 2 really main components, and one of the keynote speakers, and the second one is what we call the concurrent sessions, or other people call them breakout sessions, where you can go into a room with seats 75 or 100 people and do almost like a workshop. Would you give us some kind of idea of how many people are coming to that, and are they coming from different places, and are they covering a lot of areas under the issue of empowering women?
We will have over 40 different breakout sessions. So as we have a keynote address, then we will break out to 10, 15 sessions, and we will have a speaker addressing small groups. At that point, the speaker, an expert in their field, whether it be the economy, whatever, will have a lecture and then plenty of time, at least 20 or 30 minutes, for dialogue and questions from the audience. For instance, this conference has captured the attention of Pat Walk, who is a world population expert from the National Audubon Society. So we're pleased that people of that caliber are coming. I'd like to add that as well as the workshops, we have some other things that are not as academic or as structured. I think they're purely pleasurable. Complementing the conference, we will have a play that will be performed during the conference. It's The Diary of Anne Frank, and that will be here at the North Idaho College campus, and I think that that's a very fitting kind of play that sets the tone for the conference. We will also have an art exhibit. It's called Personal Tragedies and Personal Concerns, and these are works of art done by women on loan to us from Gonzaga University. So those are the kinds of things available to people who attend the conference. And we also will have Rosalie Sorrells perform, I hope, on Saturday. And Rosalie is an Idaho native and one of our favorite daughters. She is a balladeer, a storyteller, and musician. She's a terrific person. I think that the conference will have many kinds of multifaceted, interesting things.
In relation to what Steve was saying, I think we should also tell our viewers that as the conference addresses this overall question, that both with the keynote speakers and the concurrent sessions, that we have divided the conference into 4 sections. And one section is dealing with the right to freedom from violence for women and children. We have a section called Economic Security for Women, A third one is self-determination, and then the final section is a call to action. So it's my understanding that after speeches on that particular topic, that's when the concurrent sessions will, there will be maybe 15 sessions on dealing with freedom from violence. And so it's really quite detailed, is it not?
Yes, we didn't leave much unturned. We had a good program committee that has been working for about a year solid on finding speakers and getting speakers to commit themselves to attend the conference. So we're going to have a lot of people expert in the fields of women's rights. For instance, Ann Stevens is a consultant. She's with the Women's Commission for Refugee Women and Children, New York City. And Mrs. Walk, who I mentioned, is from Washington, D.C. We're also calling upon local people to give us a hand as well, to look at subjects, for instance, family violence. We will have Margaret Jose from the Coeur d'Alene Tribe. She is the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Court Administrator, so she will be joining us. Carla High Eagle from the Nez Perce Tribe will do a segment on alcoholism and the Indian family. So we're going to have a real exciting, interesting program.
On the concurrent sessions, you indicate there's over 40 of them, but some are being done by teams, so there's over 50 people confirmed to present. I would just like to tell a story about one that's very interesting. There is a couple coming from, now they're retired and live in Southern California, but Bertram Gross is a very fascinating man, and he and his spouse are going to do a presentation about the issue of international organizations to address violence against women. And Bert is a retired professor of urban studies, but one of his most interesting jobs that he ever had, he was the executive secretary to the Council of Economic Advisors during the Truman administration. And so after all these years, he's continued his work, continued his publishing, and he's still very vigorous. And so we have people, both men and women, and people from many, many places. I'll return to Steve, and then we'll come back to some of that later.
Jeannie, you touched on something earlier that I want to follow up on just a little bit. Not apologetically, I don't think, but you did mention, and it's notable, that this conference is going to be held in Coeur d'Alene. And when you contrast that to Los Angeles, to New York, and to Moscow, not the one that's not the Moscow, Idaho, that's 90 miles south here, but Moscow, the former capital of the former Soviet Union. Coeur d'Alene seems a bit out of step. We're not quite as large or quite as prominent as those other cities, but there are good reasons why it's coming here. And I wonder if the two of you could expand on some of those reasons.
Good question, Steve. I mentioned that the climate and understanding and commitment to human rights is very high here in this community. We received the prestigious award as a city, the Raoul Wallenberg Civic Award. We are the only community to ever receive that award. This is the birthplace of the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations, as well as the Northwest Coalition Against Malicious Harassment. We know human rights in this community. And I think for those reasons, knowing that we have a good body of volunteers to draw upon, these scholars approached Tony to see if we might host this conference. So we've taken that charge and we're running with it. So yes, Coeur d'Alene is very appropriate.
I knew some of the reasons why that was selected. I just wanted to get those out. Those are excellent points. It also occurs to me that one of the things that Coeur d'Alene is not is particularly international. We don't, unfortunately, have a wide variety of different ethnic groups and international groups in our community. Is this going to be a real experience for us? Are we, do you think, through this conference going to draw people from all around the world?
We see the potential and the interest there, and we are pleased when we see the requests for information from places in Africa and Europe and India. We will have one of our presenters from Pakistan, and we will have a very colorful group of delegates here in town, and that is good for our community. I think the more the people in our community are exposed to people who are different, I believe that diversity is a good thing for a town, a good thing for a community. So I think we will all be enriched by having the conference here in Coeur d'Alene.
Logistically, it's my understanding that this conference is going to be split between North Idaho College, our campus here at NIC, and the Coeur d'Alene Resort. Is the resort going to be the site of some of the presentations, or will all those be held on campus?
I can address that as dealing with the arrangements, and Bob Brown is chair of the arrangements committee. And I want to add, too, that Lynn Maddie, the from the Department of English has chaired the program committee, and she cannot be with us today, but she's done a remarkable job in getting the presenters along with her other committee members and with the national members on the committee. The way to set up the convention is of the magnitude and size, obviously even from the programs alone, that, for example, it could not all be housed at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. So the general sessions are going to be on the campus of North Idaho College in the auditorium, which seats 1,200. If we go even higher than 1,200, we have another facility where we'll hook up by television. And then the breakout sessions are also on campus because there's so many rooms that have those. And the good news is it doesn't interfere with classroom activity and the regular work of the college, because the General Assembly sessions start at noon on Friday and they don't end until 4 o'clock. And by 4 o'clock Friday, the classes are over on Friday, and we'll be doing it on the weekend when the students aren't here on the regular classes. And then we will adjourn from here to go to the Coeur d'Alene Resort for the reception and for the two breakfasts. And there's on Saturday there's a major lunch with a speaker, and then there's the banquet on Saturday night. So, and that's nice for the Coeur d'Alene Resort too, because I can set up in the banquet style and not have to rearrange into breakout sessions. So between those two facilities, it's going to work. This community is almost too large without that kind of cooperation for a conference that exceeds 800 or 900 people. So it's going to work well, and the facilities committee has done an excellent job of getting all those details in place. I would like to echo one thing that Jeannie said earlier, and that she has just, in a very eloquent way, said exactly why this conference is coming here. In fact, I can say that the national and international committee members that have worked on the other conferences discovered the fact that this city had received the Raoul Wallenberg Civic Award and the human rights groups. And in fact, one of the national members was fascinated with the structure of the Northwest Coalition Against Malicious Harassment, and from that they called and said this is a perfect site to honor those achievements. But they also indicated that was first and foremost, and then secondly was a beautiful site in which to kind of get away from a large urban area to, in a more quiet setting, discuss something of such magnitude. So just adding that extra comment. Jeannie, I think it would also be helpful to tell the viewers, and we'll go back to some other questions, but I have a feeling now that we have created an interest among some of our viewers. And by the way, we have already been getting in applications or registrations for some months, and Canada's already participating in this process, as well as all over the United States and some other countries. We have an address and a telephone number, and I think they're going to put that up on the screen. And if you would kind of explain that the application form and what they can do, we would appreciate that.
The application form is very simple. You fill out your name, your mailing address, state, county, zip, 2 phone numbers, and then we need to have the conference pre-registration. If you register by September 15th, you will be given a discount. It will cost you only $50. If you register after the 15th, it will be $75. Choose the amount of meals that you want to attend. I think you do want to attend all the meals and the luncheons and not miss the special banquet speaker. Total that up and get your check in as soon as possible.
And it's only if you go to register and go to all the meals, $128.
Right.
But the meals are optional, so you could come for $50, which is rather remarkable for the number of people that are coming.
But I think to establish the closeness and the fellowship, if you will, of the other delegates, you would want to attend all the meals and enjoy the speakers.
They put the telephone number up on the screen for some time, so people have that, but they didn't put the address. So if we could give them the post office box number and the city and the zip code.
It is called Empowering Women, Post Office Box 1831, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 83816-1831.
Do you mind giving that again in case someone got part of the address down?
Okay, here we go. Empowering Women, Post Office Box 1831, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 83816-1831.
Great.
Tony, let me ask a quick question to
Please.
clarify. $128 is the total cost of meals and registration if you
Everything.
want to attend everything. All right.
And that includes the art exhibit and the entertainment, music, and so forth.
Tony, we did want to keep the registration fee down. We felt that local people throughout the Northwest, the country, will have an opportunity to meet and listen to the top scholars and lecturers in the country on women's human rights, and we wanted to make it approachable and feasible that virtually any woman could attend. Anybody can attend. So.
In fact, the steering committee had a debate 2 years ago about what the registration fee should be, and one group wanted to have it higher, saying, it takes a lot of money to put on a conference like this, and others says, how do you empower people if it's too expensive? So I want to give Jeannie Givens some credit right now. She has worked very hard on a grant that is being submitted right now to the humanities, and then we received a couple of other grants, and then there is a fundraising taking place in Coeur d'Alene. And I also want to thank Joey Richards and Katie Brody, who are hosting that fundraiser, and so there's a lot of people that have been involved in this process. And the Margaret Reed Foundation gave a grant, and then we got one from the Adams Foundation in California. So through this process, we've made it more feasible financially. Jeannie, there is another story that I would like for you to tell those who might be able to come to our conference. You mentioned that there was a poet and a lecturer coming from Pakistan, or she grew up in Pakistan. Would you tell us, Abida Kuman is the person who's coming, and tell us a little about her story. I think it sets the tone of the depth of this conference.
During the opening ceremony, we will have the Coeur d'Alene tribe bless the opening event in a very spiritual, solemn way. And from there, we'll turn the program over to Abida, and she will read some of her poetry. Abida fled Pakistan, and she had a very rough time in that country. She was chased, beaten, and raped. A lot of violence toward this woman, and she was able to flee the country. She has, with that, a very intense story to tell, and it has come through within her poetry. So her human rights were violated purely because she is a woman. And from that I think will set the tone and be the kickoff for all of the other lectures, all of the other events that are to take place. She will provoke our sympathies and challenge our intelligent minds to look at the important subject of human rights for women.
We could add a footnote or two that in her country, of course, there's been such a struggle as there has been in many parts of the world for women's issues and women's rights, but she was at one point, through the presidency of her country, was involved director of family planning nationwide, so she was a very prominent leader, and then when he was assassinated and there was a step back in this whole process, then she had all this to happen to her, and so she sees it from two perspectives, doesn't she? Not only someone who had been a leader, but also the very depth of the violence and anger directed at women.
Mm-hmm. She was the victim of the anger directed at her. Very tragic story. But I understand that she conveys herself in a very positive, beautiful way through her poetry. So it's not entirely tragic.
Right. Steve?
Tony and Jeannie, this is a huge undertaking, possibly between 1,000 and 1,500 delegates to the conference. What did you say, 40 individual presenters, 50 individual presenters, 6 principal speakers, a keynote speaker who I understand is yet to be named. That's something we're waiting to hear about. And there's not a great deal of time left. Maybe you want to take just a minute to talk about some of the subcommittees of the Basic Steering Committee. Some of the efforts are underway, and is there anything major left to be done?
Yes, just many hours of work. But I believe there's a total of 15 subcommittees off of the steering committee, and among those, as some examples, is the Facilities Committee that we mentioned a moment ago, and under the Facilities Committee are 6 other subcommittees, and they're dealing with registration and transportation and meals and etc. Those other committees. There has been the Finance Committee. Of course, that's always a major task in the process. There is the Program Committee, but it's been broken in 2 parts. Lynn Mattis chaired the Program Committee that's dealt with the presenters, and then there's been a separate working on getting the keynote speakers and the banquet and luncheon speaker. In addition to that, there has been a Legal Committee. There's always some legal issues and questions that one must deal with. There has been the Hospitality Committee that's put together the entertainment, and we'll deal with some of the decorations and those kind of things at the meals. We have a committee on broadcasting, and this is a very important point we should make. Some of those guests, while they're here, will visit this studio, and we will get probably between 4 and 6 week series on this conference on the public forum. But a woman's corporation from Colorado, I believe, is coming and again, that's under that subcommittee, and they will be taping, audio taping of all the sessions. Since you can only go to one session at a time on the breakouts, then they will have audio tapes available that you can purchase for the conference for what you missed. Another thing the Women's Center in Coeur d'Alene is doing, and maybe others, and this is a very clever thing that they are doing, they have about 15 people coming, and they're going to have a different person to go to each breakout session. And then when this is over, they're going to be able to share ideas. And something very important from the University of Idaho, Dr. Elizabeth Zinzer, who's been one of the very first supporters of this conference, has, through her staff, worked hard, and they have announced this conference through the Alumni Magazine, but they are also offering a course in October for 2 weekends, and I believe it's 1 credit, and all the participants in that course on women's issues will be going to this conference as part of the course. And of course you can sign up for that through the University of Idaho here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Jeannie, would you like to add anything to the committees?
Tony and Steve, that's what's so great about working on a project like this. We want to have some lasting impact. The guests who will appear on the NIC Forum Show, that's a terrific way to expand the ripple. And the audio tapes and the several people attending all these different breakout sessions. So I think that there will be quite a bit of discussion and lively discussion continue in the area of women's human rights.
And while this corporation is doing the audio taping, Lindy Turner and his staff will do the videotaping of the speakers. And what we are giving to North Idaho College through this international organization is this entire conference will be on either video or audio tape and will be housed in the North Idaho College library for future students and other people to research on this particular subject.
If people want to get involved, contribute to the program, or volunteer their efforts, their help, how would they go about doing that?
They can call the Empowering Women, area code 208-667-5346. That's 208-667-5346. That is to volunteer. If you would like to send a donation, mail to us at Empowering Women, Post Office Box 1831, Coeur d'Alene, zip code 83816-1831.
And we're out of time. I've got the signal. But I do want to thank the Board of Trustees, the administration, the staff, and the faculty, and the students, and all here who helped. But it is an honor for this to come to this international conference here. But thank all of you. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this program very informative, and I invite you to be with us again next week when we will deal with the exciting subject of music for 2 weeks. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
The North Idaho College Public Forum was videotaped live from the studios of Telemedia Services on the campus of North Idaho College for viewing at this more appropriate time. We invite you to join us again next week for another all-new edition of the North Idaho College Public Forum on this public television station.